What is going on, you guys? Today I have another super quick episode for you. So we're going to be reviewing a YouTuber named Alex Costa, and the title here is My Honest Advice to Men Who Want Financial Freedom. Let's get into it.
For an immigrant like me who came to the US as a teenager with my family, with no savings, no knowledge of the English language, and no idea what I was getting into, becoming financially free just doesn't seem possible. So it always surprises people when they find out that I quit a six-figure full-time job at Google in my 20s to work for myself and achieve financial freedom around that same time. Now, what I wanted wasn't just financial freedom. I was getting paid well at Google, so my finances, at that point, they were fine. 6 figures, stock options, the best health insurance and benefits. They even paid for my travel and education, so I could have stayed there for a while and I could have just saved up. The reason why I quit what to most people is a dream job is because I wanted location and time freedom on top of financial freedom. I wanted to be able to work from anywhere. I wanted to travel, live anywhere I want, and I wanted to be able to take time off whenever I felt like. If I want to work 2 days a week.
All right, so let's talk about this for a second. So he was an immigrant, right? And he's going to talk about that here in a little bit, I'm sure. And he worked his way up to being able to work at Google, making great money. And honestly, most people would coast on that for the rest of their life. Like they would say, like, why would you quit that job, right? So he wanted more, right? And he wanted to build a life where he had financial freedom and time freedom. So that's important to recognize, right? Because some people will be too scared to jump for that, right? They'll live their whole life like, oh, like it's like the security and safety blanket of the Google job, right? Rather than going for what they really want. So I like the way this video has started already.
I can make that happen. I'm my own boss. I make my own schedule. I wanted total freedom. And that's why I worked really hard towards becoming financially free. So when people tell me, Alex, I want to do it too. I want to be financially free like you. I always ask why. Why do you want to be financially free? And it seems like a dumb question, right? Who doesn't want to be financially free? But the truth is, most people give me different answers. Just a few days ago, one of my friends was visiting me and he told me that he was sick of working. He wants to be financially free. So naturally, I ask him why. He says he hates his job, doesn't get enough days off, so he feels stuck going into the office every day. And then he said he's not getting paid well. He gets paid just enough to cover his bills and have a little left over for his social life. So he's not sick.
And check this out, by the way. That same guy, there's guys that do this. That same guy could be, for example, also working at Google or like a big company, right? Not that he was necessarily, but there's like guys that do that. Basically what they do is they do something called lifestyle creep, where they raise all their expenses. Like they're always eating dinner out. They're always, they're living in more expensive apartments, right? Like they get a more expensive car. So really they're still paycheck to paycheck, even though they're making a lot more money, right? So like you could turn into that guy who's working like Google or like some like really, quote unquote prestigious job and still be living paycheck to paycheck or at least not being very responsible with your money, right? So, I think I like where he's going with this because it's like, it's not about just like, oh, I don't like my job, this and that. Like there's more to it.
Saving any money right now. He's 29 years old, by the way. So I think he's really feeling that pressure of turning 30, which is totally normal. So I asked him the same question one more time. Why do you want financial freedom? Because you've only told me the reason why you hate your job, not why you actually want to be financially free. So he takes a few seconds to think about it. And then he finally told me that he wants to spend more time with his family who lives in Texas. He lives in California. He wants to have a savings account with enough funds to feel safe because he wants to have his own family soon. And he's scared that he won't be able to provide for his family. As a man, by the way, that's really scary. He wants to work on meaningful things instead of wasting time working miserable jobs that don't really fulfill him. And that is a much better answer. Now we
Yeah, and by the way, I agree with him. Like that's a much better answer because it's not about what you don't want. That's important too. But if you focus only on what you don't want, you're consistently going to basically attract more of what you don't want. So that's why it's important for you to shift your focus and figure out what you do want, because that way your energy is all going to go there, and you can be like act as the person who has that already, right? Not like seeking scarcity, like, oh, I need this, I want that, but more like, what does that guy do that has that life that I want? Let me start enacting those characteristics, those traits, right? So that's a really important point there.
know what he's looking for, what his goals are, instead of the problem, which is the job that he.
And I'm sure that's relatable for a lot of guys too, by the way, like, being around like 29, 30, even a little bit older, right? Like not as many guys having kids right now when they know, like, a lot of our parents, they had kids a little bit earlier, just as an example, right? Not always, but, it like sort of puts like a weird thought in your mind, like, oh, like maybe like there's something I need to change and work on so I can get in that direction of being able to have a family.
hates. Now, I like doing this exercise for everything in my life. A lot of times we focus on the problem because that's all we can see. The bank account with low funds, the job that you don't like, the apartment with no air conditioning, or the relationship that you're in that doesn't bring you joy anymore. Those are the problems, right? But I like to focus on the solution. What's the solution? What are your goals? And so if you're someone who wants financial freedom, I ask you why? What are your goals? Everyone has different motivations for financial freedom. And not only that, everyone has different definitions for financial freedom too. So what does it mean to you? Does it mean being able to quit your job or go part-time? Do you want to own a house that's fully paid off? Do you want to be able to give money to charity? Do you want to be able to fly business class every time you get on a plane? Or do you want to fly private jets? Or maybe you want to be able to hire a chef or a full-time assistant or babysitter to free up your time so that you can spend more time with your friends. You need to know why. You need to visualize what you want out of this. Only then will you be able to create a plan, because if you're not sure of the goal, you can't make a solid plan. And that means that you should also know how much you need to achieve that goal, right? Because like I told you, I grew up in Brazil, right? If I was making $5,000 a month in Brazil, I would be very well off. That's about 27,000 reais, which is our Brazilian currency. And that goes really far there. I could own a big house, drive a nice car, eat at great restaurants every week, invest money every month. It's a lot of money. To put it into perspective, the top 1% in Brazil, you only need to make 20,000 reais a month to be in the top 1%. So side note, if you get a remote job that pays you $5,000 a month in USD, Brazil might be a good option for you.
And see, right, like he wanted more and he knew what he wanted, right? Because check this out, right? Like he could have taken his Google job and worked remotely in Brazil, right? Because he's from there and it's a beautiful place, right? So like he could have done that and then never worked again, right? And stayed with that sort of like golden parachute, cushy job, and stayed in the security and safety. But he knew that that would bother him. Like at the end of his life, he'd be like, why didn't I go for more? Why didn't I go for what I actually wanted? So I want you to think about that now, and at the end of the video, maybe write down like your vision, what you actually want for your future. Not what someone else told you that you wanted, by the way, what you actually want. And that way you can see it in front of you, you can visualize it, feel what that feels like, and maybe even reverse engineer that vision or those goals so you can figure out the steps it takes. You only need one step at a time. You don't need to see what the whole plan looks like. Don't let it overwhelm you, okay? Turn it like a molehill slowly into a mountain, right? Don't let the mountain overwhelm you. Just be like, all right, what's the next step I can take? Reverse engineer that so I can get to those visions.
But if you make $5,000 a month in Los Angeles, Miami, or especially San Francisco or New York City, you're in trouble. The average monthly rental price for a studio apartment in New York is $3,590. There's barely anything left over, and we won't even get into income tax deductions and all that, right? So in those places, financial freedom is more like making $20,000, $30,000 a month. And even then, there are levels to this. I have friends in my building paying $30,000 a month for a 3-bedroom apartment. This is where a lot of people go wrong. They start by thinking their goal is to make $100,000 a year, but really that's just a random number that looks good. It's round, right? But it's a made-up goal. And it's funny because today you might think that $100,000 salary is amazing, but usually as soon as you hit that goal, you're gonna want more. And you're gonna say, well, 100 isn't really enough because I upgraded my apartment. I have a girlfriend now and she likes to travel. All of a sudden your expenses go up because you're making more. So you want to make even more now. Now you're making
That was that lifestyle creep I told you about earlier, which a lot of guys are not careful of.
$100K, which was your goal initially, and you're still not financially free. And you think you need to make $150K to get there. But the same thing will happen when you make that extra $50K. I guarantee you, $100,000 a year won't seem like a lot when you get there. So you're gonna want more. I remember when I got a job, I was making $5,000 a month at the time. I thought it was insane. I felt so rich. And honestly, within a few months of making that money, I wanted to make more. What happens is you end up realizing that it's not about the number, the amount, it's about the life you want to live, the feeling you get from being financially free. So instead of giving yourself a numeric goal first, like, $100,000 a year, think of the feeling that you want, the life that you want to live. Before you just randomly pick a number for your dream income that will finally make you financially free, stop and go through what I call LIFE, life. L is for location costs. Where you live, you need to consider the cost of living in your specific area or in the area that you want to live in. I is for your individual lifestyle. This is your desired lifestyle, including, your car, preferences like your shopping, restaurant, hobbies, vacation habits. F is for financial career goals. So you have to decide if early retirement is your goal, how many hours a week you want to work, what kind of work you want to do, if any. And E is for your end goals. So your long-term life goals, personal ambitions like starting a family, big passion projects that you want to pursue, or maybe supporting your friends and family family financially? Once you have those answers, then you can work backwards and figure out how much you need in order to feel financially free. This is the new number, and it's now in line with your dream life and financial freedom, right? Instead of just a made up number that just sounds good, like, oh, I need 100K a year, or I need $1 million in my bank account. So let's start with L, location costs. If you want to be financially free in a big city like LA or New York City, your cost of living is going to be high, right? Your rent, let's say, is $5,000 a month, which, by the way, that's just like a one bedroom, like a nicer one bedroom apartment in New York City. You should aim to make at least $200,000 a year to follow the golden rule of rent costing 30% of your income. If you want to be financially free in a small town and rent, let's say, $2,500, then your cost of living goes down. So your salary should be at least $100,000 a year, which follows the 30% of your income for rent rule. Then we move on to your individual lifestyle. So your spending habits and preferences. In New York City, you're not going to get a car, which is great. So you're saving a little bit there, but you're going to spend on Ubers, let's say, right? Each ride is going to be an average of $30. Both ways, that's $60. Let's say only 3 times a week, which is not a lot. That's $180 per week, $720 per month. If you like going out to eat once a week, good restaurants are not cheap in the city. You're going to spend around $200 per dinner for 2 people. So that's $800 a month if you're going out once a week. Just those expenses.
And by the way, right, like that's why it's important for you to do that lifestyle design. Like get creative with what you actually want. For example, like the location that you actually want to live in. Like, is it by a beach? You know, is it in a downtown area? Is it walkable? Do you need a car? Right? Actually think about what you yourself truly want, not somebody else. Right? And you can start to realize these things. Like just for example, like, you know, I was working remotely. So like those Uber costs, like I was living in a downtown area where I didn't need to really take one. And I used to live in LA, and it was actually similar to New York, right? It was like $30 one way for an Uber, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's how things kind of are in the US right now. But then I went to Latin America and I was paying like $1 or $2 for an Uber, right? And so you can see the difference, like once you get a remote job or just wherever it is that you want to live.
Up to $78,240. Then we add on supplies, fun spending on shopping, let's say 2 vacations a year. That sounds nice. Your $200,000 salary doesn't seem like much anymore. And if you have financial career goals to retire early, guess what? You have to save. You have to invest. So there's a lot more that you need to do in order to achieve your goal of being financially free. And last but not least, your end goals, starting a family, passion projects, helping out your family financially. Your salary, honestly, it just evaporates like this. I just want to be real with you, because being financially free isn't coming up with a round number in your head, like $1 million in the bank, 100,000 a year. You have to know what kind of life you want. Then you start to work backwards to achieve that goal. So many people make that mistake in the very beginning, and it's the reason why they get lost along the way. And if you want to have enough money to live a luxurious life with no care in the world, no looking at prices before you buy things, no checking your bank account every day to make sure that you have enough money to pay rent or go to a restaurant or maybe go to a vacation. If that's what you want,
or not needing permission to go on vacation.
I know a lot of you do, then here's what I recommend you do. Step 1 is you need a mindset shift. Look, when I moved to the US, it was the first time that I realized that my family didn't have money. You know, my friends at school, they wore nice clothes. I wear clothes from yard sales. Or in a good day, I would wear clothes from a sale from a discount store, which, they would sell like slightly defective items, but from good brands. So that was like, I was so happy when I could buy that. My friends' parents, they drove nice cars, car brands that I had never even heard of. We bought a car for $500 so that we could get around. They bought extra food at the cafeteria, every lunch, every breakfast. I couldn't afford that. I got free lunch from the government, and I never spent $1 extra because I didn't want to burden my parents with more bills. Now, most people in that situation either get jealous and frustrated because others have what they don't, or they just feel bad for themselves, right? They become depressed, they become unmotivated, they kind of just cave in. I don't know why, but I was different. Seeing what was possible, seeing those cool cars, the good food, the nice clothes, the smile on their faces, man, the way that my rich friends were just happy, right? With not a care in the world. It fired me up. I didn't know it at the time, but I learned years later that thankfully, even though I was technically poor, I didn't have what's called a poverty mindset. A poverty mindset is when you believe you will never have enough money, that getting ahead is way too difficult, or that financial freedom.
And that's, that's why it's like, I came from this background, so I will never have this, right? You kind of like stay in a victim mindset rather than having the mindset shift to realize, oh, yes, you did come from a particular background, but you can always change where you are, your environment, and also change, like learn different things, get out of the victim mindset to control or focus on what you can control in your life, so you can actually make that shift and really like enjoy an amazing life. Like, I mean, he could have stayed in a poverty mindset, like he came from Brazil, immigrated, and they didn't have much money, so he could have stayed in that mindset and never accomplished anything, versus not having that mindset. Like he said, he was very fortunate and lucky, right? So he was able to accomplish basically everything that he's wanted. So that's if you need to have the shift, you start thinking about like, what you can do, what you can focus on to like change those different things. Like focus on what you can control to get in that direction of the life you actually want and design it.
Is just a fake dream. People who are stuck in this mindset believe they will never make enough money to go on nice trips, to buy nice things, to have a fat savings account or an investment account. Something that I've noticed too is that people with a poverty mindset, they tend to hate people who make a high income. They call them cheaters. They get upset when they find out how much luxury items cost, and they act as if they would never spend that much on a car or a watch or a house, as if they will ever get there with that mindset. They won't. Unless you change your mindset, you will never believe that you can achieve it. How would you achieve something if you don't even believe it yourself? So you have to rewire your brain. You have to change your thoughts, your outlook on the world. And it starts with developing an abundance mentality.
Yeah, and that's crazy because self-belief is like it's all in your head, right? So everything that's holding you back is a limiting belief or like a mental block, a mental barrier, right? So when you're able to break that down, you can get through those things, because self-belief is the number one indicator for your success in every area of your life. So if you don't believe in yourself, you're going to continue to see more of things that indicate that. But if you start to do things that show you like you trust yourself, you have self-love, self-respect, you can focus on what you can control, right? Like these things are going to develop your discipline and your consistency for self-belief. Like, okay, I can do this. I can be confident. I can network. I can stay consistent in the gym. I can, actually work on my business. Like all these different things, or be self-employed, right? Like this is a lot more possible than you realize. So you have to. Also, I don't know if he's ever going to say this in this video, but you have to make sure that you're around people, not tell too many people your big goals, number one, right? Maybe only the right people. And because some people are like crabs in a bucket, they'll be like, oh, maybe you shouldn't try that big goal, right? Imagine if this guy listened to someone who was like, oh, I don't know if you should try YouTube, or I don't know if you should try, living that life you're really dreaming of. Maybe he would have listened to them, right? And not achieved that. So you're the sum or the total of the 5 people that you listen to the most. So if there's 5 people that are always drinking and partying and doing stupid stuff, well, you'll be the 6th, right? So you want to put yourself around people who are doing healthy habits. Iron sharpens iron, right? Which basically means like putting yourself around other people that are leveling up, or mentors that can help you learn. Right, so keep this in mind.
An abundance mindset, which means believing there are plenty of opportunities out there and that you are capable of seizing them. That's why you need to surround yourself with the right people. Look, community is important. And there are 3 things that I found that have the most impact on developing the right financial mindset. One is consuming success stories. I started watching videos, TV shows, reading books about people who came from nothing and made it big, right? And it showed me that it's possible, right? I wasn't watching fiction things. I was watching nonfiction. I was watching real stories, right? A couple of months ago, I met and shot a video with Kevin O'Leary. If that immigrant kid from Brazil at age 15 could see into the future, I think he would have a heart attack. Sure, I didn't have a poverty mindset, but I definitely didn't think that anything that I've achieved today was even possible back then. Mostly because I didn't even know that you could buy a watch for more than $1,000, right?
And by the way, people can feel like there's an energy. They can feel when you have a poverty, or you could say like a scarcity or lack mindset, right? They can feel that, right? And so like if you have an abundance mindset, you'll realize that when you have a scarcity or lack mindset, there's all these opportunities and open doors around you that you could take and hop on and grow and learn, right? And become that best version of yourself. But if you have the lack mindset, you're not going to see them. You might be focused on this one thing and really attached to like one particular outcome or something, versus the abundance mindset, realizing like you can look around and realize how many opportunities are actually around you.
$1,000 to me was so foreign. Flying business class or private, I didn't even know what that meant. So you have to learn what it means. You have to see that it's ahead of you, that it's palpable, it's reachable. The second thing is you need to surround yourself with ambitious people. I started hanging out with people who had big dreams and were working towards these dreams. Their energy was contagious, right? It made me want to work harder to build the life that I wanted instead of just dreaming about it. And number 3, you have to practice gratitude. I know it sounds like kumbaya or whatever, but it's so true, man. Every week, I like to write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. It keeps me grounded. It makes me happy. When you have a busy schedule, you tend to kind of forget, right? You don't really look back. You don't have time to look back and see all the things that you've accomplished, whether they're big or small. So be grateful if you started a new job, if you learned a new skill, if you made advancements into your career, or if you made a new friend. Those are all things that should make you proud. That feeling, that pride, feeling grateful, it snowballs into more actions, into more wins. Consistently doing these 3 things will open your eyes to what's actually truly possible. But changing your mindset, that's just the first step. Once you have that abundance mentality, you need to know what to do with it. And step 2 is something that I wish I mastered way earlier. In fact, Most people start this step way too late in their lives. You need to budget. It's not the sexiest topic, right? But this is the foundation that's gonna set you up for all the other steps. For example, when I started working at Domino's Pizza at 14 years old, I was making like $200 per paycheck, right? And I remember for months, I would just save half of that if I could, $100 each time. And eventually I saved enough to buy my first car. It was a green 1995 VW Jetta. I loved it. I was so proud of that car. And saving up to buy that car taught me a lesson to always think about the future, right? Think about a goal and to not spend all your cash right away on dumb things. My car cost less than $2,000. I saved for a long time. I could have blown all of that money on clothes very easily over that period of, a year that it took for me to save that money. So spending less and saving your cash is a necessity if you want to be financially free. According to a recent survey, actually 27% of American adults have no emergency savings at all. And another 28% have less than $1,000 saved. That means that over 50% of Americans are just one unexpected expense away from financial trouble, from debt. Don't become a part of that statistic. I actually recommend you follow a very simple, easy rule to get started. 50-30-20 rule. If you want to budget efficiently, it's really simple. 50% of your income goes to your necessities, housing, food, utilities, things that you need to survive. Number two, then 30% goes to your personal expenses. The fun things like clothes, entertainment, whatever makes you happy. The final 20% goes straight into your savings and any debt repayment. So if you stick to this, you're gonna start seeing a difference in your bank account within a few months, if not a few weeks. So you need to realize that budgeting is not just about restricting yourself, right? It sounds so boring. It sounds so frustrating to have to budget, to restrict myself. It's actually about giving yourself the freedom to spend on what matters to you later on, like my car, without guilt. It's about taking control of your money instead of letting it control you. So many people are controlled by their income. You have to control your income. And if you're only making enough to cover your bills, no amount is too small to save. Start wherever you can and then go from there. You want to focus on building the habit, right? Building that muscle, not just chasing a savings amount. Like you have to actually every month save a little bit, whatever you can. But to become truly wealthy, the truth is savings, they can only take you so far. This is because most savings accounts, they give you such low return. In simple terms, the purchasing power of your money is actually decreasing over time because of inflation. So it's like having a bucket with a little hole in it, right? You're putting money in there, but it's slowly leaking and you're not even realizing that. So that's why step 3 is one of the most important steps that you can take. And that is educating yourself about investing. Look, I'm no financial advisor by any means, all right? I had to learn it by myself. I figured it out. I have a team now, so I learned from my team and I'm just passing on what I've learned. And the earlier you start, the better. Younger investors, people in their 30s or below, they actually earn about 15% higher returns when compared to older investors. And this is just because they started earlier, because they have more time for compound interest to take effect. When I first started, I was terrified of losing money. I was so scared. So I started small. I've always worked really hard. But when I was younger, I had no money to lose, so anything I put into my savings, into my investments, I thought I cannot lose this. This is all I got, so I started as small as I could, and I would use apps like Robinhood for stocks, Coinbase for crypto, and I just got a feel for it, just trying to understand how things work. And that's okay. Starting small and investing consistently over time is way better than not starting at all. So let's break down 3 types of investments that I focused on. The first is, of course, the stock market. This is usually where people start. You could buy individual company stocks. Just don't spend all your money on a specific stock because your friend told you that it's going to blow up, all right? Make sure that you study it. Consult with a professional if you can, or you might lose your investment. Crypto is the second one. And as you know, this is even more volatile, right? It's exciting, it's cool, but it's risky. Anything that's exciting like that tends to be a little riskier. So I started with very small amounts on Coinbase and I learned as I went. 3 is real estate, which is obviously a great way to just diversify your investments. One thing I want to say is that there's always a trade-off between risk and reward. Generally speaking, investments with higher potential returns, like crypto, for example, have higher risks. Lower risk investments, like bonds or index funds, typically they offer less returns, but with less volatility. I started small. I learned as much as I could along the way. And over time, I got more comfortable. I started to branch out. Now I have investments in stocks, crypto. I own properties in LA, Miami. I've done a lot of angel investments in startups, and I've even invested a ton of cash into starting my own businesses, which I know will pay off in the end. But I just want to remind you again, this didn't happen overnight. It took time, a lot of research, tons of learning, a lot of mistakes. So that's why it's important to start early so that you can learn and apply it as you get older. Anyone can make money with a lucky investment. But the key is actually to become a smart investor, not just a lucky one. Read books, take courses, follow financial news. It might seem a little overwhelming at first, but trust me, it gets easier and it's totally worth it. I love it. I nerd out on that stuff. I like checking what's going on Zillow, checking the prices of properties around me. I think it's fun. Also remember that diversification is crucial. Diversify your portfolio. Don't put all your money, all your investments, all your eggs into one basket. Spread your investment across different types of assets, balance out the risk, and always think long term. The stock market, it's gonna go up, but it's also gonna go down. Historically, it's always trended upwards over long periods of time. Like I said, I'm not a financial advisor, and what worked for me might not work for everyone, so always do your own research, and obviously consider talking to a professional before you're making any big financial decisions. If you wanna know what resources that have helped me the most, you should definitely check out these books. I think this would be super helpful if you wanna write these down, or I'll probably just list them below in the description to make it easy for you. But I really like The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. This one completely changed how I think about wealth creation. Really like this book called $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi. if you want to know how to create amazing offers, this is like the Bible for creating offers. Rich Dad, Poor Dad was probably the first ever financial book that I've read. It's by Robert Kiyosaki. It's a classic, and it's going to shift your whole perspective on money. A lot of people shit on this book, but honestly, it's a really good way to start. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It's not a financial book, but it's a book that will turn challenges into opportunity. Never Split the Difference. It's by Chris Voss, and it covers negotiation skills that are going to serve you not just in business, but in life overall. So highly recommend that one too. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and Grit by Angela Duckworth. This book really taught me the importance of discipline, the importance of perseverance and achieving long-term goals. But don't stop just the books. Dive into podcasts, YouTube channels, online courses, whatever works for you. The key is to make learning a daily habit. Just keep upgrading yourself. It's like you're getting an upgrade every single day, like a software upgrade. So you're better and better and better. And you know what's wild? According to research, the way you look has an impact on your income. So if you want to make a higher income, you have to present well. You have to look your best. So check out this video right here on how to look your best to boost your income, your confidence, and to finally have the looks that you've always wanted.
That's actually true. I mean, here's the short version of that, right? Is a lot of guys don't want to focus on their style, their appearance, or like their grooming, right? Like getting their beard shaved, their facial hair clean, right? But like that sometimes is the difference between you getting a job or you not getting a job, or like you being able to attract a beautiful woman who's actually cool, right? Or you not being able to attract her, right? It's like you wanted to go to Walmart one day in your pajama pants and Crocs versus actually looking kind of good when you went out, right? I'm just being real with you, right? I know guys hate to hear this because they have like an ego around style, but it's true, right? So just put a little effort in, And yeah, I mean, I think all those are good points too. I like that he was saying like adding learning into your day all the time, right? Like whether it's some of those books, learning how to invest in different ways like real estate or like stocks, index funds, that kind of stuff. Because a lot of people aren't doing that. I mean, most people are sucked into social media and hedonistic things, short-term dopamine, right? You've all heard it before, right? So I'm not going to get into it here, but you imagine this, right? Let's say you work a 9 to 5 now and you're working towards your dream life. Well, you can get off work and you can spend all of that time on a video game or drinking or drugs or Netflix or whatever, right? I'm not comparing those things. I'm just saying like those are things that people waste their time on, and it's going to be real with you. I'm not going to hate on you if you do like a very small amount of like video gaming here and there, right? Like, or something like that. But some people, what I'm saying is like some people take it to too much of an extreme. So it's like too much of a self-soothing mechanism to escape from their life that they don't like, right? So they'll like game for like 5, 6, 7 hours when they get off work, rather than using a little bit of that time to like learn something and get out of the hole that they're in, right? Because you could actually get in the direction of the life you actually want by just doing that a little bit every day, 30 minutes or something, right? Start small, build the habit, and yeah, I mean, I would say with that, you'd be well on your way to your dream life if you keep making these small movements. They compound and snowball. Anyways, guys, that's enough of it ear beating for me, but thank you for watching. If you made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. You got this, bro.